On today's episode of the DuckZone503 Podcast, we're going to be talking about the NFL declarations of Bucky Irving, Jackson Powers-Johnson, and Khyree Jackson, what the impacts are. Plus, we're going to be listing off some transfer portal targets that Dan Lanning and this Oregon staff have their eye on. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. This is the DuckZone503 Podcast, where we talk all things Oregon football. Welcome in, people. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the DuckZone503 Podcast, talking all things Oregon football, with your host, Dominiqk Peterson. Let's go.
What is up? What is up? Welcome into today's edition of the DuckZone503 Podcast. The date is Wednesday, December 13th, 2023, and we are here and we are happy to be here. Let's go Ducks, baby. Guys, I give you guys weekly podcasts on all things Oregon football plus Big Ten, recruit interviews with the players that Oregon are targeting. Early signing day is on December 20th through December 22nd. Then we got the official signing day through that period. All through January, February, March, all through close to the spring game. I'm going to be trying to get recruits on here, give their story, where they're from, what they expect as an Oregon Duck. So make sure you're locked in here. Make sure you're locked in all our social medias. I'm sure most of you are, but if you're not already, at DuckZone503 on anything you guys go on, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, we are there giving you guys Oregon football updates at DuckZone503. Let's do this thing. Make sure you guys are subscribed. If you're listening on Spotify, please rate the podcast on Spotify. Appreciate everybody tuning in. What is up? What is up? So I'm going to be answering you guys' questions today. That's one of the things. I see a question in there from Samuel Thomas already. I also got a load of questions from you guys on Instagram. I put on my story. This is another reason why you really guys should be following, especially on Instagram. I put on my story. Asked me a question for the upcoming pod last night, and I got a load of them from you, so I'll be answering your guys' questions. I know you guys have a lot. NFL declarations from three important Duck players. Will they play in the Fiesta Bowl against Liberty? Will they not? What's the impact of them leaving? Who's behind them once they leave? And then transfer portal madness. Everybody wants to get to this. Oregon has been offering a few of the top transfer portal targets around the country and locking in some future visits. A lot of quarterback talk. We got Dillon Gabriel locked in, one of the nation's top quarterbacks in the transfer portal, if not the most respectable one in the transfer portal. So big things coming from the Ducks and Dan Lanning in the transfer portal. Big things coming in recruiting as well. We're not really going to touch on recruiting today, but man, make sure you guys are locked in. Appreciate everybody for joining in. So we had Khyree Jackson enter the NFL draft. He's declaring for the NFL draft. He was a first-team All-Pac-12 selection by both the coaches and AP. Announced he will forego his remaining eligibility and prepare for the NFL draft. So what does that mean? Khyree Jackson will not be playing in the Fiesta Bowl against Liberty, and this is our easily number one corner, best corner on the team. Jackson had 34 tackles, 5 for loss with 2 sacks, 7 pass breakups, and 3 interceptions this season. He finished with the highest defensive PFF grade on the team at 80.1 and the second highest coverage grade at 77.3. He held opposing wide receivers to 19 receptions on 38 attempts for 200 yards and only 1 touchdown with 8 pass breakups. So, this is a big question. So if we lose our DB1, who's going to be playing behind him? Well, we've seen Jaleel Florence this year come in, step in year 2 of his young Oregon career, become a very solid starter. Coming into the year, I really thought Triquez Bridges, I thought Dante Manning would really take advantage and step up this year as a corner. Well, what you've seen was the young kid, Jaleel Florence, step up, and this is a dude who I'm looking to as we head into 2024. Big question on him is, now that you're going to be entering your next year, you sat the bench your first year, you came in, made a solid jump, now you're a solid solidified starter. In this next year for Jaleel Florence, can he become a star? Can he become a star? That's the big question I have for Jaleel Florence. Can he become a DB1? Now, we've seen Oregon reach into the portal. They grabbed Christian Gonzalez, okay? Now they grabbed Khyree Jackson. Both these guys head of the NFL. Shout out, Coach Demetrius Martin. Yee. He's out there somewhere listening. I know he is. But Coach Demetrius Martin, DB coach, man, has not only recruited his tail off, but he's developing guys. I mean, you see what he did with Jaleel Florence here, getting him to the next level. And you see what he did with Christian Gonzalez, making him a first-round draft pick. Easily, could have been rookie of the year if he would have stayed healthy. And now you got Khyree Jackson coming in, and he's going to be going to the NFL, and he looked really good. So not only, hold on, guys, sorry. I got to turn down the lighting up in here, man. It is way bright. Hold on a second. Really bright right now. We're going to turn it down a little bit. All right. Sorry, guys. I don't know if that even did anything. But anyways, man. Yeah, so shout out Demetrius Martin, developing these guys, doing his thing, and he's gonna be active in the portal. We're gonna talk about transfer portal guys in a little bit here, but man, that's who I'm looking at in this game, especially Jaleel Florence, especially a team like Liberty, where per athlete, you should really dominate them. And he take that DB1 spot next year and become a star. And then you still got guys like Dante Manning, who really emerged, without Triquez Bridges here. He entered the transfer portal. You got to remember, Triquez Bridges will not be playing this game either. Now you're down Khyree Jackson at the corners position. So you're going to see guys like Dante Manning, Roderick Pleasant, Dalen Austin. Those two guys, the two freshmen, really came in at times. Now I get it's garbage time, but Dalen Austin, Roderick Pleasant, these are two high four-star kids in the 2023 class that go through this whole year developing, coming in, during garbage time, during the scrap-up time, and Oregon was a lot of blowouts this year, where they got to play, where they got a lot of reps, a lot of meaningful reps, and they looked good, man, especially Roderick Pleasant. I really like what I see from Roderick Pleasant, man. These guys are physical, these young kids, so it's good. It's going to be fun to see these young kids in the secondary go against Liberty in the Fiesta Bowl and see what they can do and see what we're working with. As far as Khyree Jackson goes in the NFL, man, it's looking like, off of what I've seen, he's looking to be a mid-round draft pick, maybe 4, 5, 6. I would not expect him to fall as low as 6. I'm expecting a 4th-round pick, maybe a 5th round if he drops, possibly a 3rd round if he really does some things, for scouts to see. But Khyree Jackson will not be playing in this game. Bucky Irving as well has declared for the NFL draft. Bucky Irving will forgo his remaining college eligibility. Irving made that announcement on Monday evening. Irving spent the last 2 seasons with Oregon and rushed for 2,121 yards during his time with the Ducks. Bucky is looked at as one of the best running backs in college football, and for good reason, guys. He's coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard campaigns at Oregon. He also rushed for 699 yards as a true freshman at Minnesota in 2021. So, man, Bucky Irving has been absolutely dominant at Oregon. I've been saying this easily. At one time, I really thought he was like the best back in college football at one point. But, with Oregon's offense, the way we kind of changed it under Will Stein and Kenny Dillingham, he's able to get out in space, go yards after catch, and show off what he can do, especially pass blocking. I mean, a lot of young running backs like Bucky Irving, pass blocking is a huge thing that they do not have, especially at the college level. Well, Bucky, he'll lay it on a guy. A linebacker comes through, he'll put his head down and he'll block for you. And that's one thing I really appreciate about Bucky. He has great hands, great route running. You can set him out there in the slot. You remember against Washington State, right? In 2022 against Washington State, we're down. Okay, we're on a 4th down, I think, in 10. We need this to make the comeback. Bucky Irving's the one that made that catch to get the 1st down on a slot. And he was in the slot and went and did a post route and made a huge catch, difficult catch. So you see what he can do in the route running. You see what he can do with his hands, and then we all see what he can do when he runs the ball. I mean, the first guy's not bringing him down at all. Great balance, does not go down. Tough nose running. If he gets a hole, he's taking it to the house. He's got that type of speed and type of burst, and now you look for who's behind him. And Oregon is absolutely loaded. Carlos Lachlan, the running back coach, has done his work, man. He's got Jordan James back there. Of course, Noah Whittington's out for the season. He will not be playing in this game, but Noah Whittington will be returning next year. And he was a perfect 1-2 punch behind Bucky Irving in 2022. Then Jordan James, okay, had to step up. He was our running back number 3 this year, and now looks to be running back 1 in this bowl game. He finished the 2023 season with 696 rushing yards, which ranked number 2 on the team behind Bucky Irving. James led the Ducks with 7.1 yards per carry this season. So you want to talk about an absolute bulldog, a guy that runs through the defense, that simply gets yards every carry. this is Jordan James, man. Physical, bruising runner that can keep it running downhill. And we're going to have to look to him to really run the rock here against Liberty. Noah Whittington, as we know, went down in week 4, so he's not going to be playing. But in 2022, he ran for 779 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5.6 yards per carry, backing up Bucky Irving. So, man, I can't wait to see what Noah Whittington, Jordan James can do. And then don't forget, man, these are the type of games where, especially if we start getting a big lead, we can start seeing guys like Jordan or Dante Dowdell and Jaden Lamar, 2 high 4-star rated kids coming into Oregon that, they got a bunch of playtime this year. Again, there was a lot of opportunity for the young kids to play this year because of how dominant Oregon was against certain teams. So Dante Dowdell's an absolute bruiser, a guy that will run through anybody, big back. And Jaden Lamar's your elusive back, can make guys miss, get him out in space. So it's going to be cool to see those guys in the Fiesta Bowl, these young guys. And last but not least, Jackson Powers-Johnson is also off to the NFL and will forgo his bowl opportunity in the Fiesta Bowl and start focusing on the NFL. And this one was obvious to me, probably the most deserving one, probably the guy out of all 3 of these guys. This is the guy that will get drafted the highest, was Jackson Powers-Johnson. For good reason. He won the Remington Trophy as the nation's top center in 2023. He allowed only 1 pressure on 471 pass blocking opportunities. 1 pressure. And received the top pass blocking grade of 91.3, run blocking grade of 85.2, and overall grade of 84.6 from Pro Football Focus among FBS centers. Powers-Johnson helped Oregon's offensive line become a finalist for the Joe Moore Award. And this is something we've seen since Mario Cristobal came in with these offensive lines, is just absolutely be dominant offensive line. And again, in 2023, this is something that's kind of become a tradition here at Oregon, is dominant offensive lines. And how did that start? Well, a lot of people like to hate on Mario Cristobal, but one good thing he did and establish here is dominant physical O-line play. And we've seen that since 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 22, and now we're here in 23, and we still have we got a Remington Trophy Award winner. We got, our whole line is a Joe Moore finalist for the Joe Moore Award. So this Oregon O-line, once again, is dominant. And how does that happen? Development, getting the guys. You just seen 2023, Dan Lanning brought a load of young defensive linemen and offensive linemen. Because why? We have veteran guys this season on the D-line and O-line that we knew were going to be leaving. So we load up the year before, and then you have veteran guys to develop them and see what the standard is and see how you become great. And that is Jackson Powers-Johnson. He was easily the leader of this group, and he's not only going to carry on for the guys around him, but the guys below him as well that were watching him all year. And Oregon going into the Big Ten, it's very important to have O-lines, dominant O-lines, the way we've been having the last few years now. And ESPN Mel Kiper's rates Powers-Johnson as the nation's number 3 draftable eligible center. So he's behind Duke Graham, Duke Graham, Barton, and Georgia's Cedric Van Pran. Fun fact, guys, Powers-Johnson is the first Oregon underclassman to declare for the draft. So think about that. Oregon's first ever underclassman going to the draft is Jackson Powers-Johnson, and for good reason, man. This guy was absolutely dominant. Stick with me here, folks. We're going to be talking about transfer portal target next. For the Ducks, they're going all over the country trying to get some of the hottest transfer portal targets all around the country. So stick with me. We're going to be talking about that here in a second. But first, make sure you guys go check out Mojo Fantasy. I'm in love. I'm hooked with this game, especially with NFL playoffs getting closer and closer. It's a great way to make some money and watch sports. It's a crazy new app that turns sportsbook odds and selections into fantasy contests. Here's how it works, guys. There are thousands of NFL and MLB player props. You build a portfolio, and the better your portfolio performs, the more cash you win. Pick as many props as you want and try to beat the crowd. It's a whole new way to play fantasy. The props act like stocks, so you can buy and sell live all game long. It's the only fantasy app that lets you make moves after the game starts, so you're not stuck with a bad pick. You can cash in on a hot start or just hang on and let them ride. Cash contests are based on real sportsbook odds. Get the same live player prop selection odds and cash outs as Mojo New Jersey Sportsbook. You can trade sports just like stocks. You control the action, guys. Ride your picks, cash out, or into new positions instantly. And there's no house advantage. Beat the crowd by building the biggest portfolio to climb the leaderboard and win cash prizes. Guys, if you know ball, that's really it. Make picks, make moves, make money. Download now on the Apple App Store and use my code DuckZone for a 100% deposit match up to $100 for your first time deposit. Link in the description below, guys, if you want to go check that out. One of my favorite apps, man. I've been killing it on that one. All right, guys. So transfer portal targets for Oregon in 2023 so far, and this is as of December 13th. So if you're watching this on a later date, we might have a whole new load of transfer portal target information by the time you're watching this, if you're not watching it on the debut. But as of December 13th, 2023, the hot name right now is Dante Moore. Moore has been rumored to a number of programs, including Michigan, Michigan State, now Oregon. And, even with Oregon football, the Oregon football team landing Dillon Gabriel, the Oklahoma quarterback, Dante Moore is still expected to take a visit tomorrow. He's landing in Eugene tomorrow and will be here probably throughout the weekend, it looks like, for a nice long visit to get things situated. Here's a quote here from On3 here. UCLA quarterback transfer Dante Moore is still planning to visit Oregon soon, despite Dillon Gabriel's commitment per source. The family is in the process of setting up other visits as well, but Oregon is still in the mix. End quote. So sounds like Oregon's not a lock here, especially if he's taking a visit, but we all know he's been on campus before. This guy was a one-time Duck commit before flipping to UCLA last minute. In his 1 year with the Bruins, he threw for 1,610 yards, 11 touchdowns in 9 games, and UCLA was also playing Ethan Garbers at the position, so it's important to remember with those numbers that, he was not the full-time QB1. There was some other QBs playing at QB as well. He did start off pretty hot at the beginning of the season, but they kind of fell off as defenses kind of got to get to know him a little bit. And I think Dante Moore, a lot of these 5-star quarterbacks, a lot of these guys getting big-time NIL deals, can really get to your head a little bit. I get it. There's a lot of hype, and that's what these media companies are built to do. They're built to hype these kids up, get the fans like you excited, so you subscribe to their newsletter and you can follow these recruits. That's the whole deal, man. It's the little secret behind the media. That's the whole thing with recruiting. Is the whole point is to get you hyped up. That's why you see a lot of the time, a lot of 5-star kids don't pan out. A lot of 3-star kids that nobody's talking about become Marcus Mariota and Justin Herbert. It's just a whole business. It's a whole business, and it's a whole thing. And this is the thing, man. It's not to say Dante Moore isn't good, but he obviously was not ready in year 1. He obviously was not ready. And look, you bring him into a place like Oregon where he has Dillon Gabriel to back him up. Dillon Gabriel only has 1 year here. Now you're looking at a year of development under, again, what we could have pitched to him before he went to UCLA is you could come here under Bo Nix and develop and then be the starter next year. And given it was a whole different quarterback room than it was last year, we had Ty Thompson that maybe looked to be the starter, and Dante was probably like, I don't know, I kind of want to go to UCLA and try to start. And by all means, if you feel like you're the guy and you have the talent to do it, man, go prove it to people. I'm not saying don't, but what I've seen after watching college football in my life is true freshmen usually don't hit the field unless they're just a God-given talent, like a Kayvon Thibodeau or a Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert was thrown into the fire. You remember we had Dakota Prukop, I think it was, a transfer at first, but Herbert wasn't even supposed to start, and he just got thrown into the fire. So a lot of the times you just don't see, especially at the quarterback position, probably the hardest position in sports. Because you got to know what everybody's doing at a time. You got to know what the defense is doing. You got to be on cue. This is difficult going from high school to college. And Dante Moore seen that. I think he's got an understanding of what people were probably talking about when they told him, hey, man, you might want to develop for a year. And now he's seeing the writing on the wall. Maybe I can go to Oregon where they got all these different, opportunities, all these different NIL deals, get a nice place to stay, a nice dorm, right? And look at the team around you compared to UCLA. Look at UCLA's offensive line that will be protecting for you compared to Oregon's. Hell, for the last 2 years, we've had some of the best offensive lines in the country, if not the best. So you're gonna be behind a program that has the mentality, the what am I looking for here? What word? The culture of a great offensive line. You're coming into a place where we have some of the hottest recruiting classes in the country. We're building talent. We're going into the Big Ten. We have a lot of momentum as an Oregon football program under Dan Lanning right now. So I'm sure, this is a thing that Dante Moore is seeing. And, this is a thing that he can come do. He could develop under Dillon Gabriel, become an elite quarterback, and then boom, you have your starter for 2025 and 2026. And then don't forget, you also got Keely Smith Jr., a 2025 quarterback commit that will be coming in. So you can have for 2024 Dillon Gabriel for your 1 year. Then you have Dante Moore for possibly 25 and 26 because Keely Smith, once again, there's a lot of hype behind these kids. I love Keely Smith Sr., what he did for Oregon. I want to see his son go off here. But look, I'm just saying, a lot of guys, especially freshman quarterbacks, are not ready on day one. They're just not. You don't see that. It's not common. So what I'd love to see is if Dante Moore committed, is him develop under Dillon Gabriel, veteran leader, been there, done that, all around college football, knows that Dante Moore will be the guy in 2025 and possibly 2026. And then you got Keely Smith Jr. coming in 2025 and possibly can be here till 2028, 2029. So what Dan Lanning is doing here at the quarterback position basically is lining his chips up for the next 5 years. And if you got a guy at quarterback, you can point to this guy will be our guy in this coming years, this guy will be this. And not to say every guy will stay, not to say with the transfer portal and the way college football works, this is not going to, probably won't happen the way you could see it. How you could 10 years ago and plan your way. But if everything works out perfectly the way I can see it, man, the quarterback position at Oregon is looking real special, man. Real special, especially if we're getting Dillon Gabriel, if Dante Moore eventually commits, and Keely Smith's already committed. Quarterback position will be locked up. And what that does for you for recruiting through the transfer portal is you can point to your guy. You can say, hey, we got a quarterback over here. We're not a team that is questionable right now. Washington. All right, let's move on. So then we got Nolan Smith. So Nolan Smith, or excuse me, Walter Nolan. I get confused a lot with Nolan Smith and Walter Nolan. Walter Nolan, the Texas A&M defensive lineman, is a former 5-star prospect and the nation's #1 overall recruit in the 2022 recruiting class. Nolan visited Oregon this last weekend when Dillon Gabriel also visited. Here's a quote from Pete Nakos of On3, quote saying, he was at Oregon this weekend and just some early conversations. My understanding, it went well, end quote. So if it went well, it sounds good. He started 10 games across 2 seasons for the Aggies, proving to be a disruptive force in the middle of the defense. He logged 66 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and a pass breakup. Look, why should Walter Nolan want to come to Oregon? Look, this is one of the most sought after players in the country. He can go anywhere. And he's gonna have a price tag. This guy, a defensive lineman in the portal of this caliber, yeah, teams are gonna want him big time. And Texas A&M paid a pretty penny for him, but you've seen what Texas A&M turned to do. So they have a load of guys coming out of the portal, and this is one guy that could really be a difference maker. I mean, real opportunity for a lot of play time. And to become the leader of the defense up front if he comes to Oregon, right? The Ducks are losing a bunch of guys like Brandon Dorlus, Casey Rogers, Taki Tiamani in the middle of that defense where he can come in, fill that role real nicely. And then rumor has it, guys, Jordan Burch, Oregon defensive end, he might be staying for another year at Oregon. It looks like that might be the case. Now, it's nothing official yet, but I think it would make a lot of sense if Jordan Burch did return. And then you pair him with Walter Nolan on that D-line going to the Big Ten. I mean, whew, those are some big boys. Watch out. That elite 1-2 punch up front. Jordan Burch coming into that second year under Dan Lanning, second year in the defense, another year of development. Walter Nolan, his first year, the biggest transfer portal target on the block coming to Oregon. I mean, not only will you get a big-time player, but that transfer portal momentum of Dillon Gabriel, Dante Moore, Walter Nolan, if you were landing all these guys, whoo, man, watch out. Watch out for the momentum. Watch out for the momentum on recruiting because all these prep recruits are going to be watching that too. And this is flip season. Remember that. This is the type of season where you see guys just, I'm committed here, I'm going here. Flip season, I flip my recruitment. And look, this is another thing. Unlike Texas A&M, coming to Oregon, you have the opportunity to compete for a national championship. Look, I get Oregon hasn't played in one since 2014. We played in one in 2010. We got a college football playoff win in 2014. The last few years now, we've been right on the doorstep. right on the doorstep of making a college football playoff. And I've always said this, if Oregon has an elite defense, I know we will always be able to score. We will always have elite quarterbacks. This is the West Coast, baby. This is Oregon. This is where elite quarterbacks and wide receivers are made. Oregon can recruit over here in the West Coast in California and get an offense like crazy. But where can you find those big boys in the middle? Where can you find those big boys that can block? Where can you find those big, green, ugly monsters that get after it on the defensive and offensive lines? Those guys are in the South. Texas, Florida, Alabama, the southern part of the United States, those are where those big boys, the elite big boys are at. Now, there's a few guys out here, on the West Coast. You got some O-linemen, D-linemen, California, Arizona. I know. But the majority of those players are in the South. And Oregon, demographically, we're just out here in the Pacific Northwest. So it's hard. It's a little bit harder to get guys out here that are big and beefy from the South. And that's just the truth. But you get a guy like Walter Nolan, Dan Lanning from the South, has connections. Will Stein, a lot of the staff from the South. So we're seeing that influx of Walter Nolan come in. And we're going to be playing in the Big Ten. That's another point here. Playing in the Big Ten, we're closer to playing in the South now. We're going to be playing a lot of teams towards that way. So you could pitch that to recruits and build up front, which makes elite defenses, which creates an elite team for Oregon and a national championship team. So Walter Nolan comes to Oregon. That'd be awesome. There's been reports that Walter Nolan will be taking a visit to Ole Miss next. No clear indication when he's going to be making a decision. Pete Nakos had kind of scares me when it just says it went well, because there's not a lot of detail there. Usually when visits go really good, you see the recruits say a lot of stuff about the visit. So I don't know. Of course, these recruits aren't going to come out and say, no, the visit was horrible. They're going to say it went well. But if you still take a visit to other schools, and this guy's the most sought-after player on the block, I mean, we're going to have to see. Now, Oregon did get the first visit. If he's interested in any type of school, it looks like Oregon is really, his first choice maybe. He just wants to see what else is out there. But compare Oregon to Ole Miss, man, I think Oregon makes the most sense if I'm Walter Nolan. Another player we're after is Andrew Makuba. Clemson safety Andrew Makuba has been one of the hottest names in the transfer portal. Oregon extended an offer his way earlier this week once his name entered the transfer portal. He is on 3 Sports and 247 Sports, so both major industries in the recruiting world. Both rate this guy number 1 rated safety in the transfer portal. So, if there's anywhere that the Ducks need a major need next season, is the safety position. So bringing in Andrew Makuba will be absolutely huge. The Ducks will need to reload their depth at the safety position entering 2024 as they lose Brian Addison, who went to UCLA, by the way, Steve Stevens, who graduated, and Evan Williams, who has graduated as well. So those are 3 veteran guys that will need to be replaced. Bringing in a top safety like Andrew Makuba will be absolutely awesome. Jason Schumel of Rivals reports that Makuba will be taking a trip to Oregon, Oklahoma, Texas, and Ole Miss. What's up with Ole Miss, man? We got to beat these guys out over the next week. Makuba opted to enter the transfer portal after spending 3 seasons with the Clemson Tigers in the ACC. He played in 35 games and recorded 143 tackles, 1 interception, 17 pass breakups, 4.5 tackles for loss, and a sack. He was the first true freshman defensive back to start a season opener at Clemson since 1972. So if that doesn't tell you how special this kid is, and we all know Clemson, man, these guys can recruit at an elite level. Man, Clemson, and he's a freshman defensive back to start there since 1972. In 2023, he graded out with a 74.6 defensive grade, which is a C grade, pretty much. A 77.1 pass coverage grade, getting there to a B, and a 64.7 run defensive grade. So he's about a D in run defense. Not as good as a run defender, but it looks like, according to PFF here, he's a really good pass coverage grade guy. And again, with the depth that Oregon's losing at safety, Andrew Makuba from Clemson will be a great addition to the Ducks. But again, Oregon's gonna have to battle out with Ole Miss, Texas, and what was the other school? Oklahoma. And those are some big time schools. Now, Oklahoma, Texas, Ole Miss all play in the SEC. Oregon's gonna be playing in the Big Ten. That's where I feel Oregon kind of shift the conversation. Be like, look, Oklahoma, Texas, Ole Miss, all those guys play in the same conference. Let's go play in the Big Ten, man. Let's go play some other opponents, that'll kind of be the pitch. But the thing is, he's coming from Clemson. I'm not really sure where his hometown is from, where he came from high school, but Oregon's far away. Oregon is far away from Clemson. Another safety position, speaking about the safety position and things we need to shore up, is Kobe Savage. Oregon offered Kansas State safety Kobe Savage, a former JUCO star, who has 115 tackles and 6 interceptions for the Wildcats over just the past 2 seasons. He is reported to be visiting both Oregon and Washington this weekend. So we're going to have to be battling out for our rival for this guy. And what a name, Kobe Savage. I'm jealous, man. I wish I had a cool name like that, Kobe Savage. This past season, Savage had 57 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and 3 interceptions. With former Clemson safety Andrew Makuba reported to be visiting sometime this week, it's safe to say that Dan Lanning has a strong possibility of locking down at least one of these elite transfer portal safeties, because you got Andrew Makuba from Clemson, you got Kobe Savage. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to land both, but hell, if we did, more power to Dan Lanning. But these two, I think Andrew Makuba is probably your best bet. If you're looking at safeties, you probably want to get Andrew Makuba the most. But if you miss out on him, I'm thinking they're going to go to Kobe Savage, who's easily a top 10, maybe a top 15 safety in the transfer portal here. 115 tackles, 6 interceptions over the last 2 years. I'll take that easily, 100%. And then another guy, we got Cyrus Allen here. Oregon also offered former Louisiana Tech and current transfer portal wide receiver Cyrus Allen. So we're going after a wide receiver in the portal and losing Troy Franklin. Okay, we don't know Tez Johnson, what he's going to do yet. Trayshawn Holden, I expect to be back. Gary Bryant Jr., I expect to be back. Then you got young guys like Kyler Casper. You got young guys like Jurion Dickey in that wide receiver room. He was a 5-star kid that can look to step up. Kyler Casper has been here for a couple years now. Big 6'5" wide receiver, can create mismatch problems. So we got some guys in this wide receiver room. It's not that I think we need Cyrus Allen. I think we're just looking for an experienced guy, a veteran guy, a proven guy that can become maybe a wide receiver 1 for us, like Troy Franklin was, especially if Tez Johnson is gone. That will be a thing to watch, because as much as I like Trayshawn Holden, I think that guy can make plays. As much as I like Gary Bryant Jr., I think they both made plays at certain times this season. They were not very consistent. They didn't see the field a lot for good reason. Tez Johnson, Troy Franklin, just better wide receivers. And that's fine. But I don't know if you want to rely on Trayshawn Holden. I don't know if you want to rely on Gary Bryant Jr. to become wide receiver 1s. As much as I like them, I think they're great playmakers. But you need a guy that has been used to that role, that can game in, game out, give you those type of numbers like Troy Franklin was this season. I don't expect anybody to come in and be just like Troy. I mean, Troy Franklin is arguably the best Oregon wide receiver in program history, but we need a proven guy, and I think Cyrus Allen could be that guy from Louisiana Tech. He's one of the more sought after wide receivers in the portal this year. He's got offers from Houston, West Virginia, Miami, South Carolina, Indiana, Wisconsin. I can go on and on. There's a lot of schools going after this guy, and because this past season, the sophomore brought in 46 catches, 778 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That's after a strong freshman campaign where the 6', 177-pound New Orleans native finished second nationally on an average of 22.7 yards per catch with 500 yards on 22 catches as a freshman. And I just spoke about a big game about freshmen coming in and not really being able to perform. This is one of those guys. And now through 2 seasons, Allen has totaled 68 catches for 1,278 yards and 8 scores. And this is the thing, man. Troy Franklin's off to the NFL draft. This guy looked to be another weapon that we can add through the transfer portal, and he's really sought after, and adding with those young guys. I'm excited to see what these young guys can do coming into next season. Jurion Dickey, who's a 5-star. Jurion Dickey, he was the number 18th player in the 2023 class, number 18 in a list of 1,000 guys. He was the 18th best player, number 2 wide receiver in the 2023 class, number 3 in California. And we all know how elite California high school football is. And then Kyler Casper, who came in 2022, was supposed to come in 23, but reclassified to 2022. Number 174th nationally. Number 29th wide receiver, number 3 in Arizona. So this guy's a stud himself. I had him on the channel. 6'5", guys. So I'm excited what this wide receiver room can do. So Cyrus Allen from Louisiana Tech, Andrew Makuba, safety from Clemson, Walter Nolan, probably the biggest target if we were to land him. Oregon would go, or Oregon Twitter, Oregon Instagram would go insane. Walter Nolan from Texas A&M is a huge target. And then Dante Moore. Dante Moore is another huge target. So those 5 guys are some big Oregon transfer portal targets. There are going to be more coming out, but as so far, those are the guys that they've offered. Those are the guys that are going to be visiting or have visited already. Who has entered the transfer portal for the Ducks so far? Obviously, we got Ty Thompson, who just entered recently after the news of Dylan Gabriel coming in. Ashton Kozart just found a home at SMU. So shout out Ashton Kozart for finding a new home, going closer to home. Wide receiver Chris Hudson entered the transfer portal. Wide receiver Josh Delgado. Defensive tackle Tavita Poeme. Defensive back Triquez Bridges. Safety Brian Addison is at UCLA. So the Ducks will be playing UCLA next season. And Brian Addison is going to be a safety there. Safety Damon David has also entered transfer portal. That makes 8 players for the Ducks so far entering the transfer portal. Obviously, transferring into the Ducks program. The only player we have is just one player, quarterback Dylan Gabriel. A lot more to come, I can tell you that. Okay, guys, let me take a sip of water, and we'll move on with the podcast here in just a second. Cheers to whoever's out there. Go Ducks. All right. This is your daily reminder. Please like and subscribe to the video. If you haven't already, please rate if you are on Spotify. 5 stars for me. Thank you so much for doing so. Okay, so we got some listener questions on my Instagram. This is another reason why you really should be following our social medias, is because on my Instagram, I asked you guys, hey, I'm having an upcoming podcast, and I need some questions to answer. I know you guys got some, so give me some. And that's what you guys did. So I'm going to look in the comment section over here first. And we got Samuel Thomas here, says, Dom, who's the 5 players we need to get in the portal? And boom, I just let you know. It was those 5 guys. So thanks for asking. But there you go. Those 5 guys I just previously listed 2 minutes ago. My guy Brian Callahan says, I hope Liberty Mutual plays that stupid Liberty Bibberty ad every commercial break during the game. That would be some funny thing. I actually had a meme that I posted. Again, another reason why you guys should really be following social media is at DuckZone503. I posted a meme. It's Aflac the Duck. We're Aflac against Liberty Mutual. Yeah. Pouring out for Herbert, sitting out the rest of the season. Oh, yeah, Justin Herbert, injury news, products. Man, get well, Justin Herbert. At least I don't have to be watching the Chargers anymore. Yeah, it's been good. Oh, my Pops, man. What up, dog? Go Ducks. What up, Pops? Go Ducks. Go Ducks. We don't talk about dogs here. We're no longer for Makuba. He's not taking a visit anymore, says Samuel Thomas. Oh, okay. I personally have not seen reports of that. I've actually heard reports that he should be coming on this week. I'll be keeping you guys updated. Samuel, thank you for that if that is true. I personally have not seen sources on that, but hey, more power to you. Thank you, Samuel, for keeping us plugged in. Do you honestly think we'll get more, or what are the odds would you give us? So this is the thing, man. Yes, I think it's all what is Dante Moore looking for. Is he trying to go to a place where he can play instantly again, where he feels like, look, I'm not trying to be at UCLA because I feel like I need a better team around me. That's all it is. I don't think that's what it is. If you read the articles, if you read what reporters are saying, his quotes are basically saying, I'm putting it in a nutshell here. Look, I realized what I did was wrong. I need to find a new home. I need a place where I can develop, become a better quarterback, and sit behind a great quarterback. Oregon just got Dylan Gabriel. If Dante Moore really wanted to go, excuse me, guys. Whoa. If Dante Moore really wanted to go somewhere else and start and go play right away, why would you go to a place where they just brought in a transfer quarterback and Dylan Gabriel, who's played a lot of college football and is easier the better player? Why would you still go visit there? Well, it's obvious. It's because Oregon has a damn good chance. This is where he was committed. This is where his heart was before. I think Oregon has a real good chance at signing Dante Moore and pitching to him, look, dude, this is a place where you can come relax for your first year. You can come in and focus and work and get the playbook down. And then by your second year in the system, you're ready to go. You're locked and loaded and you're developed. And I think that's a damn good pitch. I really think, Jake Fish, that we could definitely get Dante Moore. There's a high chance. Okay, let's move on to Instagram. You guys, Instagram questions. So at DuckZone503, you guys really sent in those questions there. So we're gonna go ahead and get to some of these. Let's start here. Ben Short for Benson asks, how can we improve our D line against Washington next year? Well, against Washington specific is pretty specific, but I'll do the broad scope of how can we just improve our D line, because it's true. We're losing a lot of veteran guys on that D line. But one thing you can do is try to retain as many guys as you can. Okay. Obviously, guys like Mace Funa, gone. Okay. Graduated. Nothing you can do. Taki Taimani, nothing you can do. They are out of eligibility. But the guys that do have eligibility that could possibly go to the draft, like Jordan Birch, do everything you can to keep him around, because he's a veteran guy that you're going to need up there, a guy that made an impact this season and can probably make an even bigger impact the next year. And then obviously is development, okay? Oregon has a lot of young guys. I'm talking Amari Washington at the defensive line position, Terrence Green, Mykiel Gardner, okay? These are three young guys that have played a couple times this season, came in and out, these freshmen, but next year, going to the Big Ten, it's big time football for them. It's big time play. No pun intended for the Big Ten. But these young guys are going to come in and have to play, and developing those guys and really, really putting a focus on those guys in fall camp and spring camp, in the spring game, developing those guys, getting ready for the Big Ten, getting ready to play some big time football because their roles are going to be amplified this season, getting them ready, developing. And then three, bringing in talent is another way that you can, upgrade this D-line through recruiting, through the transfer portal. That's obvious. All right. A-Rod 3.0 asks, best place to sit at Oregon. Me personally, if I could just choose a seat, I would either go first row on the 50-yard line. That's probably the best seat in the house. Or if it was really cold or really rainy, club seats. Where I sit is where I can afford. So I was in row 80 this year, and I had season tickets. I got to go to every game, so I'm happy. Next season I'll probably be able to get some better tickets. Just, pockets are looking a little better than last year, but for me, I don't think there's a bad seat in the house, just being honest with you. Everywhere is a great seat, just because the way the stadium's built like a bowl, you're perfectly above every head, unless the guy's 7 foot somehow. You're perfectly above every head, and you got a great view of the field. And it's not like Oregon has a gigantic stadium. I mean, we only sit 54,000. So every seat in the house is a great seat, in my opinion. Bode Dude 12S, biggest need in the transfer portal for Oregon. Okay, so I did list some players already. I'll go position group here. I'll kind of switch it up. What position groups do we really need? Quarterback, I think, is done, sealed, and delivered with Dylan Gabriel. Even if we don't get Dante Moore, we're going to be good there. That was number one at first for me. Now I got to go safety in corner. Okay, secondary, basically. Get guys in the secondary, because you don't have a cornerback one. And Jaleel Florence might be that guy. He could step into that. But that's a big could or what if. Jaleel Florence was solid. He was good. But there were times where he did get beat still. And he's still a young guy and got penalties a couple times. We're looking at guys like Roderick Pleasant, Dalen Austin. Dakota Fields comes in the 2024 class. Those are big time recruits that Oregon's going to be looking at as young guys to develop and possibly take a bigger role than normal, right? Andrew Makuba, we listed, some guys that they're looking at safety in the corner position, but we are really thin as far as experience goes in that corner and safety room there. And then number 2, I would definitely say defensive line up front. D-line is real thin as far as experience goes. That's why Walter Nolan, in my opinion, is probably the biggest transfer portal target for if I'm Dan Lanning that you want to get, just because how thin you are up front at this point. And then number 3, where else would I go? Probably a kicker. Yeah, let's get ourselves a damn kicker and make some damn field goals and not kick the ball out of bounds on kickoffs. Probably a kicker at number 3. / wide receiver. But that's the thing. I don't think wide receiver is as important as D-line and the secondary right now. We're pretty good at linebacker. We got a lot of depth at linebacker. Offensive line, we're pretty good at. I don't think we need to get many offensive linemen through the portal. Okay, what wide receiver do we need to help put Dillon Gabriel on a Heisman path? Asked Charlie Mac 321. Thank you for asking that. What wide receiver? So if Tez Johnson comes back, that's your guy. That's wide receiver 1 right there, easily. I mean, this guy at the beginning of the season seemed like kind of like just a player like Trayshawn Hall and Gary Bryant will make plays here and there. I think he only had 15 catches in the first 3 games. But in the last, I think it was like the last 9 games for Tez Johnson, he put up 60 yards for like 700, 800 something yards. He absolutely killed it towards the end of the season and really became a star. And I think he could go to the NFL if he wanted to. I think he really did put up a good enough season and enough tape where he can go and get drafted, and make a nice check. But if Dan Lanning can pitch some things, maybe get a nice little NIL opportunity for Tez Johnson here at Oregon to persuade him away from the NFL a little bit, maybe tell him, hey man, this is put up 2 1,000-yard wide receiver receiving seasons, and then also have an NIL deal where you're taken care of while you're in college. I mean, sounds good to me, right? If you're Tez Johnson. So that's a big wide receiver that could definitely help Dillon Gabriel. And those two, man, that would be a great connection to watch. Okay, let's see. Chances of us landing Dante Moore, which I've already covered. But here's the second part of the question by _S.H.E.L_ Shell, basically. Or flipping Micah Hudson. Wow, this is a question. Micah Hudson is a 5-star wide receiver. I'm pretty sure is committed to Texas Tech. Let me go search this up because Micah Hudson. I remember talking to him a few times when I was covering recruiting last year. This was a big-time wide receiver in the 2024 class from Lake Belton. And he's a big-time Texas Tech Red Raider. This is where he's from. I have not heard any reports of us trying to flip Micah Hudson. I know we were in it for him for a while, but as soon as he committed to Texas Tech, I'm sure Oregon backed off. I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon's trying to get him to come through. But man, if you look at his Twitter, this guy is a Red Raider, man. He's defending the Red Raider fans from Texas fans and all that live on Twitter, on public. So it seems like he's pretty strongly locked in there. All right, let's go here. CB139_ asks, will Jordan James be able to completely fill the shoes of Bucky for the Fiesta and next season? I do. I believe Jordan James is a great back. Do I think he's as good as Bucky Irving, though? And I'm going to be harshly honest here. I don't. Okay, I think Bucky Irving's more explosive. I think he's more shifty. I think he's more balanced. I think Jordan James is a little more easier to take down to the ground. But I think the physicality of Jordan James, running through guys, getting yards per carry up there. I mean, he's got 7.1 this season. This is a guy that's hard to bring down. But the elusiveness, the shiftiness, the ability to break a 70-yard touchdown, I would give Bucky Irving the lean there. But I do like Jordan James. I really do. I think he can develop into something special. This is a kid that was originally a Georgia commit and flipped to Oregon late. And this is something that we've been wanting to see from Dan Lanning is how many Georgia players are we going to see come to Oregon once he came to Oregon? And to be honest with you, we have not seen a lot. There's not been a lot of Georgia players coming to Oregon, but one person he was able to bring was Jordan James. That was a Georgia commit at one time, and he bring him over, and he's been doing great, man, doing great, and steps in. And you can't forget Noah Whittington. Noah Whittington will be coming off his injury and be returning as a Duck. So Noah Whittington, Jordan James, and then you got Dante Dowdell and Jade Lamar, the two young guys behind them. Man, Carlos Lachlan, the running back coach, is doing his thing at that position. Cyrus_Bowie_17 asks, is Dillon Gabriel going to be a top-tier quarterback? What will help us reach the playoffs? Anytime you bring in a veteran guy that has 5 years of college football, and out of those 5, he's thrown for over 3,000 yards, 4 out of those 5 years. A guy that has 42 total touchdowns last year as an Oklahoma quarterback. A guy that doesn't turn over the ball. 6 interceptions. Top 5 in QBR. I mean, this is just consistency in one word. Anytime you got a quarterback like that, that's a proven leader, that what you're going to get day and night out. Yeah, this is a guy that can help you win championships. Now, college football playoff, you got to remember, it's a 12-team playoff next year. It's not just 4. So it's going to be a lot easier this year for Oregon to get into the playoff, especially playing in the Big Ten. The strength of schedule we'll have this year, it's going to be a lot easier for the Ducks to make the playoff. Even if you drop 1, maybe even 2 games, you can still make it in that 12 spot, 11, 10, 9 if you have 2 losses, right? So you're going to see a lot of teams having 2 losses. The SEC, the Big Ten is stacked, man. It's going to be totally different next year. It's going to be totally different landscape of college football next year. But Dillon Gabriel leading us to the college football playoff, being a top-tier quarterback next year, 100%. And you go look at On3 Sports. I posted on our social media at DuckZone503. Go look at On3 Sports. Early Heisman odds. Dillon Gabriel's number 3. Had Jalen Milroe at number 1. We'll talk about that later. But anyways, Dillon Gabriel was number 3 in On3 Sports early Heisman 2024 rankings. So most definitely. All right, let's keep it going. We got about 5-6 more minutes here. Okay, Grayson Furster. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Who all do you think will start at corner next year? Jaleel Florence pretty much. Yeah, Jaleel Florence pretty much a given. Like I said, I think you're gonna have to hit the portal for another starter, another starting caliber guy, because behind him you got Dante Manning, who's been here, and it was the highest rated corner to ever sign at Oregon. A lot of expectations for Dante Manning, and just being harshly honest again, man. This is where we keep it real. The DuckZone503 podcast. We keep it real. Dante Manning has not been that impressive as advertised. This is like saying you're getting a Porsche, and then your Porsche is capped at 60 miles per hour for whatever reason. This is like, we got the best corner of all time at Oregon signing, and he has not performed that way. Now, not to say he hasn't made some plays and hasn't gotten better throughout his time at Oregon, because he has. He was part of that team that helped knock off Ohio State. He was one of those corners playing his butts off and defending those wide receivers that Ohio State, Chris Olave, all those guys, man. And he was young at that time. And he played well. And there's times he's played well. Against Oregon State, he had a big interception, right? But it's what makes a great player, from a solid player to a great player, consistency. And that's even with Jaleel Florence, man. It's even with Jaleel Florence, because there's times where he's gotten beat. There's times where he's getting penalties. He's not. If it was up to me, man, we need to get a cornerback 1, somebody who's even better than Jaleel Florence, because Jaleel Florence is an excellent cornerback 2 with Khyree Jackson. Now, not saying he can't develop into a cornerback 1, but this is a big need, the cornerback position. If I had to choose right now, we don't have any transfers right now, I would definitely say that Dante Manning is going to have to take that next step next to Jaleel Florence, as it looks right now. But we all know a lot's going to change. A lot is going to change. We also can't forget Roderick Pleasant, Dalen Austin are two corners that have been locked down when coming into the game late. Those are guys that are going to be in their second year next season. Dakota Fields is a huge 2024 corner that's coming in. But again, he's a freshman, so I don't know how much he will play. It just depends, right? Okay, let's see. Let's try to get maybe 2 more questions in here. I'm trying to find some good ones. Okay. Adam Darvishian. Jeez, this is a hard name. Adam Darvishian asked, with the influx of new transfers, do you think that Oregon will be a playoff contender in the Big Ten? So with the influx of new transfers, for one, we only have 1 so far. I know there's a lot of rumors of people visiting, but that does not mean automatic commitment. Let's remember that. And here's the thing. I think Oregon might take a step back naturally next year. Look, this is a veteran-led team. We got Dillon Gabriel at quarterback. Now, that's a huge thing. I don't think that we're going to be when I say take a step back here, I don't want people to think we're going 6-6, 7-5. No, we'll still be a 9, 10, maybe an 11-win team. But going into the Big Ten, that within itself is difficult. Okay, you're going to be playing a way harder strength of schedule. Your first 4 out of conference games are cake, and then you get into the Big Ten, it's a damn gauntlet. Then we're losing a lot of players defensively, a lot of veteran players defensively, and that's where I think Oregon might take a little bit of a step back. Now, there's a lot of time left from here to September next year. A lot of time, a lot of moving around is going to happen. I'm sure Dan Lanning is going to get this roster shored up, but as it looks right now, a lot of young guys in certain key roles where if we don't get those filled out with a key player through the transfer portal or recruiting or development, it could be tough at certain spots. So I think Oregon with Dale Gabriel at quarterback, with the offense we'll be bringing back, I definitely think that we're going to be one of the better teams, top 3 team, maybe top 4 team in the Big Ten. Now, does that get you into the college football playoff? That's a big question that I just can't answer in December of 2023. You know what I mean? All right, let's get one more. Classic_man_Q asks, does Jordan Burch return for one more year? And this is a big question. A lot of people are asking, hey, who's coming back? Who's not? Jordan Burch, I reposted, let's run it back. Now I get this is not confirmation of him coming back, but I reposted on my story, said, let's run it back, Jordan Burch. I posted a photo of him. And what did he do? He reposted it and liked my message. And I think it would just make sense for Jordan Burch. Look, this is a former 5-star kid that went to South Carolina, was projected to be the next Jadeveon Clowney over there, and didn't pan out. Now, just like Dante Manning, solid player, makes a couple plays here and there in the games, but is not consistent, not a dominant force like a Kayvon Thibodeau, like a Jadeveon Clowney was, right? He's just not that force yet, right? So he's under Dan Lanning, Tosh Lupoy. These are defensive coaches with excellent track records that have won national championships at the highest level of college football. So Jordan Burch to come back for another year and put more tape on the film and prove to scouts, NFL scouts, that, hey, coming out of high school, I am this 5-star dominant defensive lineman, and especially how much Oregon is losing on that defensive line, he can really become a monster and a leader up front. So I'm excited for that, man. I do think Jordan Burch will return. I think he will be a leader up front. And if we pair him up with Walter Nolan, whoo, watch out, man. That's all I got to say. All right, guys, I think that about wraps it up. That's all the time we got today. I really appreciate everybody tuning in to the DuckZone503 podcast once again. If you're not already, make sure to like and subscribe to the video. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify right now, please rate the podcast 5 stars if you haven't already. I'm giving you guys weekly podcasts on all things Oregon football, keeping you guys up to date. I'm going to be trying to get the recruits onto the channel. Okay. Early signing day is December 20th through December 22nd. We're going to get a few guys sending their NLI in, getting on campus here soon. So we're going to try to get these guys on the channel, tell their story, tell the viewers what they're excited about as an Oregon Duck. And then you guys can't forget to follow us on our social media at DuckZone503. Appreciate everybody who does. We've been growing like crazy. We're officially at 6,500 followers on Instagram. I never seen the day where we get this much followers, man. We're over 1,000 on YouTube. We're at over 600 on Facebook. We're over 500 on TikTok. We're over 2.5 thousand on Twitter. So, guys, every platform, any platform you're on, lock in with us at DuckZone503 to stay on top of all things Oregon football. Appreciate everybody once again. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. I will catch you in the next podcast. As always, go Ducks. Stay locked.